Hello, everyone, and welcome to Overtime. I wanted to make a quick correction. I've been watching the live chat. There does appear to be a troll in the live chat, if the mods could. Somebody has made a suggestion. If we are to the standing by screen, that counts. That's on time. I'm just saying, if it's standing by, we're streaming, we're good, it's on time. End of discussion. Welcome to Overtime, folks. All right. Well, having said that, all joking aside, it is, as everybody knows, really an extraordinary period, as I have an unfortunate tendency to have to say during the beginning of these shows. A lot's going on. There is a presidential transition that is finally beginning, a global pandemic that has hit the United States especially hard and probably unnecessarily so. We're going to discuss that a bit. And quite a lot going on. So today, a panel recommended Moderna's COVID vaccine for FDA approval. We believe that this will probably be approved by Friday. This vaccine has a number of differences over Pfizer's vaccine. One of the biggest differences is that this vaccine can be stored in a regular freezer. Pfizer's vaccine has to be kept at negative 103 degrees Fahrenheit. That's negative 103 degrees Fahrenheit. It is the coldest any vaccine in human history has ever had to be kept. You need special transportation devices. You need dry ice. You need nitrogen, liquid nitrogen. It's not easy to store. It also only lasts for about 5 days in refrigeration. So you have to be able to distribute it in 5 days to wherever you're trying to get it. And do so while keeping it immensely cold. Moderna's, on the other hand, can be kept at, let's see, I think I have the, okay, so it looks, oh yes, Moderna's is negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a temperature that actually even your household freezer should be able to maintain, making this vaccine much easier to distribute to remote populations. It can also survive frozen for 30 days, much longer than Pfizer's vaccine, about 6 times longer. Pfizer's vaccine is, however, approved for 16-year-olds and higher. Moderna's will, it looks like, only be approved for 18 and higher. We're going to discuss those vaccines, I think, a little bit more, although that's, yeah. Both vaccines also have over 95% efficacy and are 2-dose vaccines. The United States now has over 17 million COVID cases and nearly 308,000 deaths using the most conservative means we have for determining deaths. We've discussed that before, may get into it again later. It depends. We'll see where Vox and I end up. Today, we had a record 3,656 deaths in a single day, more than a single death every 30 seconds. The CDC now projects another 16 to 28,000 deaths between now and January 9th. Northern Ireland has declared that they will enter a 6-week lockdown, a complete lockdown of all of Northern Ireland, and England is expanding their lockdown to now include nearly half the country. French President Emmanuel Macron has tested positive for COVID-19, and the head of Swaziland, which I would be mispronouncing much to my embarrassment, except I suspect many of our audience may not. Somebody in our audience would have known what it is. I'd still be pronouncing if it weren't for this beautiful woman right here. So thank you for that one, Fox. The head of Swaziland, yes, Prime Minister Ambrose Dlamini, has died of COVID-19. He was 52. He is the first world leader to die of this illness. The HHS officials have admitted, well, actually they haven't admitted, sorry, it's been discovered, that they were actually hoping for an increase in infection rates. A top Trump appointee has repeatedly urged other top health officials to adopt a herd immunity approach to COVID-19 and allow millions of Americans to become infected by the virus. Encourage these infections, according to internal emails obtained by a House watchdog and shared with Politico. Quote, "There is no other way. We need to establish herd, and it only comes about by allowing the non-high-risk groups to expose themselves to the virus, period." End quote. That was then Science Advisor Paul Alexander writing on July 4th to his boss, Health and Human Services Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs, Michael Caputo? Caputo? Oh, Jesus. Do you know that one, or am I just making that one up?
Caputo.
Caputo. Caputo. Okay, well, there you go. I had that one right. We're on time. We are on time. I don't care what you say. We were on time, and I pronounced something correctly. That's 2 wins in a row. Caputo and 6 other senior officials. Alexander also argued that colleges should stay open to allow COVID-19 infections to spread, lamenting in a July 27th email to the Centers for Disease Control and to the director Robert Redfield that, quote, we essentially took off the battlefield the most potent weapon we had, younger, healthy people, children, teens, young people who we needed to fastly, a Trump appointee, don't blame me, that's what he said, to fastly infect themselves, spread it around, develop immunity, and help stop the spread. Somebody's going to have to explain that one to me. Let's see. However, for the first time ever since the election, Mitch McConnell has recognized Biden as the president-elect. He has publicly used the words president-elect regarding Biden, and he has reportedly begged senators not to capitulate to members of the House who need a single senator in order to contest the certification of the Electoral College results. If even a single one goes on, we could be headed towards a constitutional crisis. It's going to depend on whether McConnell can wrangle the senators. Who there wants to go down on record as causing this in history? We'll get into that one. Meanwhile, Biden has really been very inclusive in his selections for cabinet members. And you know what? I'll save those till later. Vox, where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with the first thing being Swaziland is the English pronunciation, which is correct. For those that are outside of the Western Sphere, we are talking about Eswati. The Prime Minister of Eswati has passed away. The herd immunity thing, for those of us that, how do I want to put this? For those of us that spend time in certain circles on the internet, we know that there are certain groups of people that tend to say very incorrect things. But I don't expect to hear the level of okay, just all right. So enough with the political correctness. Really dumb shit. All right. Herd immunity is not something that we develop because we get sick and some of us die and eventually it goes away. When we talk about herd immunity, what we're talking about is a vaccinated population. Okay, that's what herd immunity is. So we have a population that has received a vaccination in a large scale such that the few people who aren't vaccinated or the people who cannot be vaccinated because maybe they are allergic to ingredients or things like that are protected by the sheer vast amount of people who are in fact vaccinated. So when we have health officials, right, elected officials, appointed officials, talking about, we need young people to get sick. By the by, without any knowledge of the side effects of what happens when we become infected, the long-term effects of what these diseases are, it is just another in a never-ending, non-stop barrage of evidence that the people that are running a country right now do not care about the people in this country. They only care about themselves. They have absolutely no idea how to govern. And thank God we have finally adults coming in to, take back over the country. And you may not like Joe Biden. You may not like Kamala Harris. But they are adults. They will not subject us to unnecessary and needless harm.
Well, and I think so. Yeah, wow. And I think you've hit all the major points. First of all, we are learning that there are, in many cases, profound cognitive impairments that last at least a number of months and may, in some cases, be permanent. Kidney damage that can be permanent as a permanent side effect of this. They seem to think that it's a binary state. Either you've got it and you're sick, or you've been cured and you're fine. And it's not true. The White House chief security officer has actually just had, I think it was last week, no, it was this week, I think earlier, had his leg amputated as a result of complications from COVID-19. And herd immunity is not a goal per se. It's something that hopefully we do eventually reach. We need to reach it for the safety of people who can't take the vaccines. That's true. But that's a conclusion of proper practice and making sure that people have that immunity either through having gotten the virus or preferably through vaccines. That's the point. I agree we should all have herd immunity, but it doesn't mean that in order to get it, we go about deliberately enacting policies that infect people. Now, HHS has repeatedly said that they did not have this policy. Trump said that this was not their policy, but all of their behavior appeared to be around the fact that they're thinking that what's actually best for this country is if everybody gets it. So this actually seems to explain, in my view, I mean, I always thought it was sort of genuine incompetence that Trump wasn't interested in this, and now I kind of suspect that somebody that Trump trusts, it doesn't matter if he trusts him, Trump goes with whoever says what he likes. Somebody said to him, look, we want herd immunity. That happens if everybody gets infected, so don't do anything. In fact, discourage people from doing anything. He said, oh, poof, that's easy enough. And that's what he did. I mean, is that? Do you think that's like far? Is that out there? Because that's what I see with these coming to light.
Yeah, I don't think that is that far out there. You know, we have Trump who. With 30, every single day we have a World Trade Tower event, right? Like every day, 3,500 people are dying, right?
Yep.
So, 2,800 people died in the Twin Towers. How many people did you say died yesterday? What was the amount? 35?
Oh, Jesus, let me go look that up real quick. Nearly 3,000, sorry, 300, no, 3,656.
3,656 Americans died of a preventable pandemic, right? And what is the Trump administration worried about right now? Rolling back restrictions on water-saving faucets and shower heads. This is what the Trump administration has been doing this week. In the middle of a deadly pandemic that has crippled our economy, created another housing crisis, created a rent crisis, has taken the lives of millions of people, who has damaged the lives of tens of millions of people permanently. They want to make sure that shower heads can produce more than 2.5 gallons of water per minute. Just let that sink in for a minute. Like anybody that it was ever on the fence about Trump, he cares more about being able to, have a good, strong stream of water on the top of his, freaking
please don't be going where I think you're going with that.
Blonde-haired.
Okay. No,
then he. Then
I was worried you were going
he doesn't
to.
Care about us.
Yeah. I thought you were going into. He cares more about the stream on his Russian hotel room, but no, we didn't get into the Russian hotel room. So I think that's why this probably.
No, not the Russian hotel.
Okay.
And so we have they can deny it all they want, but Sweden tried to deny it too, right? Like so Sweden did the herd immunity thing, right? And it was a disaster, right? But we compare this to countries like South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, right? These countries, right? Taiwan has had 7 people die, 764 confirmed cases. Period. Like, that's it. That's all they've had. Why? Why is it that they've had it and we haven't? Is it because they have a stronger immune system? No. It's because they listened to basic science. Their assistant prime minister is a virologist. He said, if you wear your masks, right, which is why I wear this thing every single time I come on here, right? I don't wear this because I think that, I'm going to catch COVID from Nick, right? I wear it because if somebody watches this show, right, I want them to think, okay, well, that person's wearing a mask, so can I, right? Plus, I don't have to do my makeup, right? Let's be honest, it's amazing. I think I'm going to be keeping these things, right? But so Taiwan has had 7 people die, and they just followed science. So why we put a man on the moon? Why can't we follow just some basic guidelines? I don't know.
Well, I think, unfortunately, the U.S. has been leaning towards a very strong anti-intellectual streak, which I find very concerning. And you do tend to see that right before the fall of any country. That is a something you see that typically happens. That's actually what happened in Germany right prior to World War II. The Jews happened to also be the most educated, and they were easy targets for any number of reasons. They were also very successful, but there was a very strong anti-intellectual streak that started running through Germany in the late 1920s, early 1930s. And I see it here, and I don't see anything changing it. And I don't want to sit there and say that, hey, everybody needs the ivory tower. Yeah, we need farms too, and we need farmers, and we need everybody who does everything. But don't sit there and say that this country's going to survive without the ivory tower, because it's not. It's just not part of, the way we make vaccines, the way we make better superconductors for computers that can make the warplanes all that other stuff is the people in the ivory tower. So let's not pretend that the ivory tower is less needed by the farmers any more than the farmers are less needed by the ivory towers. We're all in here together. Titan said this earlier, and he and I had gone over the math, and I don't recall the math, but I do recall that it was good at the time that he and I went over it. So herd immunity by contagion, if it could have been accomplished, would have come at the cost of no less than 7 million deaths. Now that was, I forget what the mortality rate was for that, but it was a reasonable mortality rate for COVID. And given the population of the United States at a little over 300 million, we came up with 7 million deaths. I'm sure he'll be able to redo those numbers. So thank you. And then we also had an interesting comment, 2 interesting comments. One, if herd immunity worked in that way, we would never have reoccurrences of the plague or other infectious diseases like smallpox. And also Der Sacularist, who said the vaccine protects from disease, not from infection. It is not a sterilizing immunity. Ergo, everyone needs to be vaccinated. Herd immunity can't be achieved with the Pfizer vaccine. So, the fact that they could be this uneducated and then talk about something just so blasé and talk about something so unbelievably dangerous as to suggest that everybody should get infected. And we've had, I've forgotten what the death rate is, and it may be that also somebody can look that up if they're bored in the live chat, which I don't want to encourage people admitting they're bored in the live chat. But if somebody wants to look it up, the New York Times had decided to try to get a better handle of what the COVID rates are. You may recall that I said earlier that by the most conservative figures, we've had over 308,000 deaths in the United States. But those figures go by people who have been tested. There are people who've died who haven't been tested, and nobody knows. If you have diabetes and you're suffering because you haven't been able to get to the hospital to get your treatment properly because your hospital is overwhelmed, and then you get COVID, nobody knows you got COVID. The symptoms are similar to diabetes. It's out of control. You die of it. They assume diabetes, and they don't test they do test dead bodies. We try to, but only when they suspect COVID. So we've had more deaths. We just don't know exactly how much. So The New York Times decided to try to figure out how many by comparing what was the average death per month in every single state for now for the last, I think they did about 18 months, and they compared it to the previous years. And what they found was a huge spike and a huge increase as COVID moved from region to region to region. And those numbers are much higher than the numbers that we would otherwise have seen if COVID hadn't been here, just judging historically. What we have also seen is a corollary spike in the deaths of teenagers and of young adults, suggesting that this notion that they are somehow immune or more protected is greatly exaggerated. They may be, but it isn't as much as people think. And we can tell that not by the numbers, because the numbers seem to suggest that it's low, but by looking at the actual mortality rate for teenagers in the last 18 months. And it is growing. It is growing faster than it is actually for the other groups. Nobody's entirely sure how or why. There is evidence now that there may be a new strain in England which is more contagious. They do not know what the mortality rate on it would be. There was a previous strain that was more contagious but less lethal. We don't know. But you can't fuck with this. This is a live. This shit is changing. So I don't know. I think that's enough outrage out of me. Am I missing anything major to be outraged about with this? I mean, I know I sound.
No,
This is
I
insane.
don't
But
think so. I mean, I think pretty much like this is an issue where pretty much, if you're on the wrong side of it, then I don't know what to say to you, right? Like, I made the comment, and I think the one of the first show that I did with you, or one of the first shows that I did with you, was whether or not it was okay to wish that Donald Trump died from COVID, right?
yep, yep.
So I will pose another question. Is it okay to realize that the majority of people that are infecting themselves right now are people that are the people that are denying science and things like that, and while the rest of us social distance and wear a mask? So you know what? If they die, oh well. It just makes it easier for me to elect Democrats. Sorry, not
Um,
sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I sort of feel the same way. I mean, yeah, I would rather they take care of themselves and they take care of their fellow man, which happens to include me. But on the flip side, if they're not going to, yeah, it's going to hurt me. It's going to hurt my family. It's going to hurt them more. And there's only so much I can care about that if they're going to behave that way. So I think that's good. All right, and we had a good question. I don't know, we haven't discussed it yet, but we did have a good question about will Trump refuse to leave office, because he even floated that idea. He floated just not leaving the White House. Oh, shit, where'd you want to go next? We've got a whole bunch of. I think we're off of COVID, which is good. So where'd you want to go next? Well, Captain, I know is one you wanted to talk about.
We obviously we have seen some monumental appointments, historic appointments to the Biden cabinet and departments, Senate confirmable departments. Obviously, the two most recent being that Deb Haaland has been nominated for the Department of Interior, which is huge. Deb Haaland is a Stockbridge-Munsee Indian. For those of you that don't know, the Stockbridge-Munsee Indians were victims of the Dawes Act. And what the Dawes Act was a restructuring of tribal territory in the 1800s, early 1900s. Well, I guess not the 1800s, it was the mid 1900s. I don't know why I said that. And what Henry Dawes thought was that, we needed to make sure that Indians were good citizens of America. And what that meant is to wear three-piece suits, drive Studebaker wagons, and drink whiskey, right? The whiskey being incredibly, good on, the Indian population, because as we know, Native Americans do not react well to alcohol. And that has not changed. So the Stockbridge-Munsee Indians have been decimated And in fact, the Stockbridge Munsee Indians, along with several other Indian tribes from that area, are no more or less than 2 generations away from total extinction, due in large part to the way in which the Interior Department has treated the Indians. And in fact, there is a episode of a show called The West Wing. Which is a wonderful show by Aaron Sorkin for political people. It's kind of like the Bible. And there is an episode in there called Indians in the Lobby that discuss the difficulties with the Stockbridge Munsee Indians in particular. And the Dawes Act. So just a little bit of background for you. So having a representative of a tribe who has been around since before white man landed on this continent, heading a department in which her people are almost extinct, speaks volumes for the broad reach of the Biden campaign. And then, of course, we have named the head of the EPA, who comes from North Carolina. He's obviously African American. We have Pete Buttigieg, who has been named Transportation Secretary, the first openly gay cabinet member and the first openly gay person to win a presidential primary in Iowa. So his cabinet is extremely inclusive. We have women, we have minorities, we have LGBT people, we have Indian representation. And you can't run a country if you don't. You can't run a country of a diverse group of people if your leadership isn't diverse, because we need the different cultures and backgrounds and the different ideas and the different ways of thinking in order to propel us forward into a globalized technocratic society that is the 21st century. And Joe Biden is a septuagenarian. He's very old. He came from a very different time. It is obvious that he is putting the transition period from 20th to 21st century really into the forefront by appointing Pete Buttigieg as Transportation Secretary to really reinvigorate one of the most important. Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State. These are the people that get all the paparazzi. These are the people that we care about, right? But think about it. Transportation is one of the most important things that this country has, right? How we get our goods and services, our food and things like that. Our roads are failing, our bridges. How many people can we put back to work with good, high-quality union jobs if we have an infrastructure bill that's worth a damn? We can save Indian tribes that are going extinct with the Department of Interior. We can get a better grip on wildlife management and on natural resources. We can get, and of course, Deb Haaland's going to have a very important job, because day one, she has to roll back the ANWR stuff that Donald Trump rolled back, or reinstitute, should I say, the ANWR stuff that Donald Trump reinstituted. So there's a lot of, I'm very, very proud of I'm very, very proud of having voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as president. He has exceeded my wildest expectations. There's always things that I wish he had done better. I wish he could have been more progressive in the State Department and the Department of Defense, but overall, just fantastic.
I think that put it beautifully. I was tempted to start to get into a discussion on why diversity is important. I actually don't like the word diversity because, and we're gonna, as you know, we're gonna be doing on In Time a few shows on a woke culture coming up, and what I don't like is I think diversity can often be weaponized, and I think it's becoming a word that I dislike. But I think you perfectly encapsulated why it's important and why you have to have people represented and a different set of life experiences. So we should absolutely, you know what, I'm going to write this down because I always say we should do a show on a topic. And then later I was just like, we had all these great topics and I don't know, what was the topic? We need to do a show on diversity and what that really means and why it's important. But I think barring doing a show, I think you did a spectacular job explaining that. So thank you. So I couldn't agree more. So what's next? I think now so McConnell is now, aside from actually recognizing that somebody's been elected, which is stunning, is also working on a bill or another stimulus package. What do we know about that?
So we know that there has been some headway. What we know is that the Republicans are basically playing it seems that they're trying to get back into their old routine of we care about the debt. No, you don't. You never cared about the debt. You only care about the debt when Democrats are in office, right? So it does look like what they have done is shortened. So the initial bill that was being negotiated, the $3 trillion, it's down to $918 billion, which is a slap in the face of hardworking Americans. It's basically another massive redistribution of wealth to the top. In this pandemic, the top 1% in America have made another $1.2 trillion. While 25 million Americans went without work, they made $1.2 trillion more in private money. We should all be ashamed of ourselves. They should be ashamed of themselves. This bill will be shy of $1 trillion. It will include a stimulus check. It looks like those checks will be about $600, which is a joke. That's not even enough to pay half a month's rent in most cities. It looks like unemployment benefits will be extended for maybe another month or so with the $300 surplus in there, which again is a joke. The complaint is that if you're making more money on unemployment, then you need to get back to work. And the, again, reversal of the point that conservatives always get so wrong is that no, if $300 added to your paycheck means that you're making more on unemployment, then you are not getting paid enough in the first place. I saw a great comment earlier on my Facebook. It was one of those back in my day memes, and it said, well, back in my day, I used to make $2.50 an hour, and I didn't complain about it. And of course, the response was, really? Well, in today's money, that's $20.65, and I only make half of that. Dunk on you, boomer. The Republicans are refusing to fully fund states that are having tax income shortfalls due to, the shutdown. And I fully blame, again, conservatives. Look, I am an unabashed liberal, and I have some conservative ideas. But if you are if you are living in a state right now that is going back into lockdown, that is going to be more restrictive, that is having temporary closures and things like that, and any of that drastically affects your social life, then you are the reason that those things are occurring. You are responsible for the destruction of the economy in those states. Period. Full stop. So that's kind of what the stimulus is looking like. It looks like a very watered down thing that they can actually get through the Senate and get to Donald Trump's desk. Donald Trump has signaled that he most likely will sign it. So that doesn't seem to be a problem. And then we just have to hope that the Democrats have enough balls when the first, omnibus bill comes around, the Defense Department's budget or something like that, that we can slap on another stimulus amount that actually means something and get it passed through the Senate.
All right. I think that, once again, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think for me in particular, I don't know. This is a poor analogy. I hope I'm not really doing a bad analogy here. But there's this. Well, it's often Republicans who say this, and it sounds brutal, but I think there's a lot of truth to it, which is, okay, you see a homeless guy on the street, and you give him $50, I sit there and say, okay, well, gee, I did something good, but does it really help change his life? No. But if all the money that everybody was going to donate directly to them, you found a way to make sure that they had food, shelter, that they weren't out on the street, educational program, all these other, that's how you change things. Giving money directly to the American people it isn't a bad idea. It's certainly a way to give people the impression that the economy is going well, but finding ways to make sure that they can make their rent, which they usually can't do with a direct, exactly the way you said it. So, as I understand it, they've been looking at a UBI, which the fact that they could even mention it, I guess the Overton window's moved enough that we can talk about it. But so I'm impressed with that. But a UBI that covered everybody for $1,000 a month would have almost no impact on any American who's, any American who's making $100,000, $200,000 a month. That's going to have no impact on them. But if you're below the poverty level, that's huge. That's huge. And that is the difference between making your rent or not. And that's a lot of people. 1 in 5 children in this country is born in poverty. And in order to do that, on paper, it looks like it costs about $5 trillion, which, by the way, is roughly at this point what it looks like we're going to be spending on stimulus total, $5 trillion. And I don't see many people's lives really being changed for the better. If we put that into a UBI for a year, okay, it costs $5 trillion on paper, but the result actually is it costs less than that, because what they do with that money is put it back into the economy. The people who most need that money aren't holding on to it. It's not going into a savings account. It might, if you're a millionaire, they're going to sit there and they're going to forget it's not even worth it, but then they're not going to go out and spend it. I agree either. But that's not the average person. The average person is going to spend it. It goes back into the economy. The GDP goes up, and you end up with only actually really effectively having spent less than half that. So for half of what we're going to be spending essentially on stimulus, we could have basically I shouldn't say guarantee, but we're pretty close to guarantee for most Americans in this country that they could make their mortgages. And then instead of having to suspend foreclosures, suspend people getting evicted, which we only did for a short period of time anyway before it all started up again, instead of having to go through all the courts with all the people who are now getting evicted, instead of all of this, we could have put that money out there. It would have come back into the economy, and everybody's lives would have. Am I missing something? Is that roughly accurate, or did I totally screw the pooch on that one?
No, that's roughly accurate, and it's also a false dichotomy, right? Because what they want to say is that universal basic income is socialism. Da 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 da. We can't do that. We're a capitalistic country. Da 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 da. Shut up. All right. Just stop talking and put your dunce cap on, because we do have a universal basic income in this country. It's called corporate bailouts. It's called bank bailouts. Right now, we are pumping billions of dollars into the economy, into banks and things like that, so that they don't default on these things, right? But those same groups who are receiving these monies will also be able to go back and collect on the back rents of the people, right? So they're making it double, right? So we always provide welfare to our corporations and things like that. We never provide it to the low end. So the people that argue against universal basic incomes and things like that say that it's socialism and we don't want socialism, but they're only not okay with socialism for poor brown people. So what does that tell you about that?
Yeah, well, it's not in my backyard or whatever's best for me. I do think so. We're also going to need, I think, another show on UBI, because we've covered UBI before, and I think it would be worth covering again. We had Mouty was asking about UBI also, because he wanted a good primer on it. So we'll do a show on that. So all right.
We should do a show on modern monetary theory. That's what we should do a show on.
I like that. I think I think you got it. The other thing you said that I thought was really interesting too was about small governments. So not just small government, but government spending. The Republicans always say they're against government spending. The only so first of all, the budget, the cost for the actual U.S. budget and the size of the deficit has gone down only in the last 20 years during Democratic administrations. The only president to successfully, actually, it's not even 20 years, I think it's the last 40 years. The only president to successfully balance the budget was Clinton, and he was a Democrat. The largest single organization in human history, the Department of Homeland Security, was created by Republicans. And I always get pushback on this because they say, well, it was in response to terrorism, yada, yada, yada. The terrorists weren't suddenly better on September 11th than they were on September 10th. They had been trying time and time again to hit the United States. They got lucky, and through a few faults in the communications, in particular between the CIA and FBI, any number of fixes in airport security, any number of changes in our procedures for what airplanes do when they get hijacked, any number of things could have prevented it. But the reality is they had been trying to hit us like that for 20 years. Eventually, they were going to succeed in doing that. I have to believe that, especially based on, and I know this is self-serving, but based on the history of how Democrats operate, I don't think Democrats would have completely overhauled the government to fix this problem. The only people who said, let's spend loads of money, increase the military budget, which is already, by the way, larger than that of every other country on the planet combined. Let's, go spend more money and create the largest bureaucracy while we in human history, while we tell people that we're for small government. No, I don't get triggered by that conversation at all. All right. Yeah. So
big government is good. Say it with me. Big government is good.
I'm gonna have a hard time saying that. I'll say it's not bad. We
like big government. We like Franklin Roosevelt. We like John Kennedy. Big government is good.
And they're accusing me of being the socialist in the live chat. Okay.
No, this one's not a socialist. Me, I have tendencies.
All right.
We also should have just a class on. We should also have a show on just like basic, basic understanding of the way our country works and what a socialist is and a socialist is not, and maybe talk about the difference between Marxism and Leninism and Maoism.
What is socialism?
Anyway,
we need a class on that. Yep. Perfect. Okay. Since you started this, I'm going to finish it. President Josiah Bartlett is talking to his chief of staff, Leo McGarry, because it's my Bible too, and says that he may refuse to leave the White House during an emergency situation. Leo says the Secret Service is going to come in and they're going to remove him, whether he wants to go or not. He says, what happens if I resist? And Leo says, well, your feet may hit the floor on the way out, but I doubt it. Trump has suggested that he may not leave the White House, effectively squatting. I don't think he's going to do it. I'm starting to hear from even Republicans blowback on just how embarrassing it is. I mean, people who voted for him, and we've had, I'd like to get on Isandering to talk a little bit more about how Republicans sort of feel about what's been going on, but he's one of the ones who's in general a bit more really well measured in his views, but ones who aren't measured in their views and who have been, full Trump supporters are starting to say it's looking to be embarrassing. What's the likelihood he decides he's not going to leave, and if he doesn't leave, what happens next? Is it does the socials? Do they really escort him out, or?
They would. The White House does a very good job of removing trespassers.
That was Biden's. Was that Biden's comment, if I recall? Was that
Biden's comment? Yeah,
that was
no,
good.
So there's a process to this, though, right? So. And again, we'll use the way as an educational experience. And I, of course, always, support people going and watching the West Wing, right? So one of the last episodes, we see what happens as President Bartlett is standing up on the dais and President-elect Santos is getting ready to take the oath of office, and we see the staff, we see the butlers and everybody, and they come in and they start packing down the items and everything like this, right? There is a process to this, such that it takes 1 hour, right? 1 hour to pack up the entire first family and move them to their residence, right? Donald Trump will leave the White House one way or another. He will leave. I suspect is that he will travel a day or so before Joe Biden is sworn in to Mar-a-Lago, and he will hold a campaign rally simultaneous with the swearing in of Joe Biden. If he leaves a letter, it will probably say like, "You're illegitimate, I won." Right, breaking with the White House tradition of leaving, it's
Something
telling. So
magnanimous, yeah.
when Barack Obama won, right, one of the first things Barack Obama did was he went to his chief of staff and he said, "I want all the current living presidents. I want them all to come to the White House for a lunch." Right? And they all sat around, they had a bagged lunch, and they sat around in the Oval Office, and you had Barack Obama, and you had Jimmy Carter, and you had Bill Clinton, and you had George W. Bush. And they sat around and they all gave their opinions, and they were all there to support Barack Obama as he ran this country, right? That will not happen with Donald Trump. That hasn't happened with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is everything that Barack Obama was not. That's why they hate him, because Barack Obama was nothing but style and class and intelligence. His wife was nothing but style and class and intelligence. And I don't want to take anything away from Melania Trump. I don't. I'm a fan of Melania Trump. I think the liberal media has maligned Melania Trump for political points, and I don't like it. The first ladies, to me, should be off limits unless they do something really insane. And so I think Melania Trump, has to deal with a lot of stuff. But I think that with the way Trump behaves, that he's all just bluster, right? That's all he's ever been. He's a bully, right? And he's running out of time. So I don't expect him to attend. But like I said, he will leave the White House one way or another.
Mar-a-Lago, I guess his neighbors at Mar-a-Lago are actually trying to keep him from living there, and we have that in the news. I know. Oh God, and that's in our Discord too. And in fact, we're gonna probably be wrapping up in about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm gonna be in the Discord afterwards. Vox, I don't know if you've got time, but if you want to join us, that would be spectacular. Perfect. So, but we always have what's going on. The sort of latest news is on the Discord. It's spectacular. The people who drop in that have been really helpful too. So, but then we'll be there. We'll chat. So, and we'll have the link to that dropped, and hopefully I think I updated that to Titan. But yeah, I think the other thing too is, I mean, there is in fact a process to this, of course. And what I find interesting is, of course, every military institution, and I don't know if the post offices as well, but every military institution, every federal building has a picture of the President of the United States. They have them flipped in every building in the country, where they have that within about 5 or 10 minutes of the conclusion of the inauguration. And again, that's they take that very, very seriously, so that you walk into any federal building, you will see the current president, even if he's only been president for 5 minutes. So that's yeah. Oh, all right. Well,
it's time for serious people to have serious discussions and do serious things. It's time for unserious people. It's time for pedants and pedagogues to leave. Your time is over. You had 4 years. You have successfully eroded confidence in the American dream, the American spirit, and the American institutions. But your time is up. As of December 14th, your time is officially now over. So enjoy it while it lasts, and don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Never heard that one. Okay, it took me a second. Now, aren't they doing at least one more? There's one more lawsuit, I think. Another federal court hearing for a suit filed, let's see, to, I think, contest the Georgia absentee signature matching. So I don't know. I don't think that's going to go anywhere. But
it's not going to go anywhere. I will say this, just for a real quick, just a bit of something that I remember that we were going to talk about, right? So what would happen if a senator contested? A senator and a congressman would contest.
And before we do that, let's just make sure everybody knows the process. So you're going to have the delegates. Well, actually, you're going to have the states who are going to their congressmen are going to go and certify this. If they decide they want to contest it, they have to have one senator who will represent them in contesting it. If they don't, they cannot contest it. And it is certified by the head of the Senate, which is going to be Pence. So with that process understood, please. Yes. So they need a single senator. If they get a senator and they say, we are contesting the results, then what happens?
Well, so it's a little bit of almost an unclear process, because it's, to my knowledge, it's never actually happened. But there would have to be some kind of reason to contest it, and then you'd have to show cause for that reason. If you can't show cause, then eventually it just works back to the initial set of electors is what is done, right? So the reason I wanted to bring that up is to assuage any people who have any worries about last minute tricks. Are they going to try it? You're damn straight they're going to try it. Will it succeed? Absolutely not.
So at this point, are there any other shenanigans that you see? It looks like they're for the most part giving up on the legal challenges. Trump is talking about sticking around. I think somebody who cares about him, and admittedly that's a very select few of people, is going to explain to him that he does not want to have happen what's going to happen if he tries to stick around at the White House. So that's going to be a short-lived idea, I suspect. So is there anything else short of contesting this that you think that they can or will try to do to invalidate the election between now and the swearing in?
No, I can't really think of anything. I mean, they can continue to sue in court. Sure, they can continue to try to bring up frivolous lawsuits. I suspect that there will be a number of congressmen who will attempt to invalidate. I did see an interesting lawsuit being pushed forward that anybody that is doing this thing should be thrown out as they are in violation of the 14th Amendment's article on sedition, which is awesome. Just awesome, right? That lawsuit's awesome. But no, I really can't see anything, right? Because eventually it just all rolls back to the initial slate of the electors. So they're just going to continue to embarrass themselves, right? That's all this is. The grand old party, the party that effectively ended slavery. The party that gave us Abraham Lincoln, the party that worked on passing the 19th Amendment, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the party that signed the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, that signed the Clean Water Act, that signed the Clean Soil Act, that helped us get programs like Social Security up off. That party has now officially become the party of anti-science, anti-logic, anti-education, and they are just a complete and total anti-voting. They're just an embarrassment to everything that Lincoln has not just rolled over in his grave. Lincoln has stood up from his grave, went and got his assassin, had him re-assassinate himself.
Oh, I love the imagery. Okay. I don't want to.
There's a bunch of skeletons walking down, 1600 Avenue, going, we shall rise again. What? No, just put us right back in the grave, man. We're good.
Yeah, sign of the end times.
Miss me with that.
Both Daniel and Luke, well, they're a little different in how it happens and who does what, but the Jews are resurrected. Jewish rabbis are resurrected.
Yeah.
You have zombies.
Yeah, they get resurrected. They walk. They see these running things. And like, what? We'll just wait. It's good, man. We'll just
another 1,000 years. We'll be back.
Yeah, another 1,000 years. Yeah.
Oh dear Lord.
I think that's all I've got, Nick.
All right, I think that's about it. I wanted to make 2 real quick comments, which was actually in the Gore. Bush versus Gore election. One of the interesting things that happened, just to clarify for people too, which was every congressman that, not everyone, but a lot of the Democratic congressmen, especially in the hotly contested states, they themselves, the representatives, did in fact contest it. But the representatives couldn't get a senator to sign on board, so it didn't matter. Now, my curiosity is, I think the wording is a representative from the Senate. And what I've always asked is, what happens if Al Gore said, I'm the head of the Senate, I'm a representative, I'll back you on it? So I don't think it actually says senator. So I was always curious, just as an intellectual pursuit, what if he had done that? He didn't, and I think it's probably a good idea he didn't. But nonetheless, that's one of those little interesting, same thing as was what's his name? Dick Cheney, actually a member of the legislative branch, because his official powers actually stemmed from the where the legislative branch was outlined in the Constitution. I thought that was another interesting argument. And then the other one that I have, and I won't bore anyone with it, but they've heard this before, is that actually the President of the United States right now is Paul Ryan. But we'll simply because I think the election, the last election, you could argue was invalid because of Russian meddling. I think Hillary Clinton actually technically did win for any number of reasons, but President Obama can't hand it over to Hillary Clinton, just hand it over. So since the winner, who was Hillary Clinton, was not in fact inaugurated and Trump is invalid, it would fall to the Speaker of the House, who at the time was Paul Ryan. Just saying. All right.
Just saying.
Now that I've thoroughly tried to do a mindfuck on everyone, thank you all for joining us today. If you like the show, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. We're going to be in the Discord in about 5 minutes, but it's a great way. It helps us with the algorithm in YouTube. It's good for everybody. It feels good to do it because you've done your mitzvah for the day.
Thumbs up. Come on.
Yes,
we did this for you, right? We like that. We like the pets, right? It's like different strokes for different folks. Just click that like button, hit that subscribe button. Come on, make a comment in the chat. Let's go.
It makes us feel good too, because it means, yes, she's got a very good point I've never brought up before, but I think that's absolute. It makes us feel good too. It makes us feel appreciated. It helps us also, the mods feel appreciated too when you're out there talking. So we will be in our Discord.
We have an incredible mod group down there in the chat. We really do.
We lucked out. We've lucked out, and a lot of very hardworking people who are modding and contributing to the news that we get. We're going to have our regular show coming up. Let's see, next week. We're going to have on John Shook coming up to discuss what life is like in a post-truth world. And we're also going to do our next on philosophy series, our introduction to philosophy, and we're going to be discussing, of course, epistemology. And I think we have a lot of other topics to do. We're going to talk about it all in the Discord. In the meantime, Vox, thank you very much for joining me today. That was marvelous. Thank you all, and we will catch you in about 5 or 10 minutes. I will see you all there. Night all.